Before we touch production identity, we need a safety model. Governance reduces uncertainty, rollback protects the business, and operational readiness keeps support aligned. This topic is about building confidence before high-impact hybrid identity changes. You've already built the foundation: Active Directory, Entra ID, migration strategy, coexistence, synchronization, and legacy dependencies. Now we shift from architecture to execution control. Before hands-on implementation begins, the migration plan needs to define governance, readiness checks, and rollback paths, so hybrid identity can be deployed safely and predictably. Migration governance is the control plane for the entire identity transformation. It defines who approves a change, who executes it, who validates the result, and who can trigger rollback if something goes wrong. It also connects business stakeholders, IT, security, compliance, operations, and support around one decision model. Without that structure, migrations can drift into ad hoc choices, unclear ownership, and emergency fixes. With it, every action is documented, reviewed, communicated, and auditable, so the program can move quickly without losing control. Role clarity turns a migration plan into an operating model. Before changes begin, name the people who sponsor, design, approve, execute, validate, and support the work. A RACI model keeps this practical. One team may perform the configuration, another owns the decision, others provide input, and broader groups stay informed. Bring in business representatives early because they can confirm whether pilots reflect real user impact. For high-risk choices, use a decision board so exceptions, rollback approvals, and scope changes are handled consistently. The goal is simple: no orphaned decisions and no surprises. Change control is the safety mechanism that keeps a migration from becoming a surprise outage. Every meaningful change, whether it involves sync, authentication, conditional access, device migration, or an application cutover, should follow a formal request path. Before approval, confirm test evidence, business impact, rollback steps, and user communication. Then schedule the change for a maintenance window or low-impact period, implement it, validate it, and close it. Tools like ServiceNow, Azure DevOps, or Jira provide the audit trail so everyone can see readiness, ownership, decisions, and status before production is affected. Good migration documentation is not paperwork for its own sake. It is the memory of the project. Diagrams show how identity, applications, policies, and dependencies actually connect. Decision records explain why the team chose a sync scope, authentication model, rollback strategy, or enforcement rule. Capture assumptions, constraints, risks, open issues, and approved exceptions as well, so future troubleshooting has context. Keep these records in a shared, version-controlled repository with appropriate access. If a decision cannot be traced, reviewed, or repeated, it is not ready to guide a production migration. Communication planning turns a migration from a surprise into a managed experience. For each pilot, wave, outage, authentication change, or policy update, define what people need to know: what is changing, when it happens, how it affects them, and where to get help. Tailor the message to the audience. Executives need risk and business impact. Help desk teams need scripts and escalation paths. End users need clear actions and timing. Prepare status updates, outage notices, success messages, and rollback communications before the event, so the team can respond quickly and consistently. Rollback is not emergency improvisation. It is designed before the migration begins. For each planned change, define what you will monitor, what conditions count as unacceptable impact, and who has authority to stop or reverse the work. Timing matters too. Some fixes are safe only within a short window. Classify changes honestly: fully reversible, partially reversible, or hard to reverse. Then practice the rollback in a pilot or sandbox. The goal is not just to undo a change. It is to prove the service has returned to a known good, validated state. Synchronization rollback is more than undoing a setting. A sync change can create, delete, or modify identities, attributes, passwords, groups, and application access. Before changing Entra Connect Sync or Cloud Sync, capture baselines for configuration, rules, OU scope, and attribute flows. Test with pilot OUs or scoped groups, so the impact is visible before broad rollout. If something goes wrong, recovery depends on knowing what changed. Sync logs, Entra ID audit logs, deleted objects, and access testing. The goal is a controlled return to a known good identity state. Authentication changes are high risk because a small misconfiguration can block sign-in for everyone. Before changing federation, password hash sync, pass-through authentication, or cloud-only settings, capture both the current method and the intended target. Then define the exact path back, restoring domain federation, re-enabling PTA agents, confirming hash sync health, or reverting cloud authentication settings. Keep at least one administrative access route independent of the component being changed. Finally, validate sign-in across the real access landscape: browsers, Office clients, mobile devices, VPN, legacy applications, and privileged accounts. Rollback is only useful if access is proven. Conditional access should never be treated as a switch you flip for everyone at once. Start in report-only mode, review who would be blocked, and then enforce through pilot groups and staged rollout. Validate exclusions, named locations, and device compliance assumptions before expanding scope. Most importantly, maintain break glass accounts that are excluded from conditional access, tightly protected, and tested regularly. If a policy misfires, rollback should already be defined. Disable the policy, relax MFA or risk conditions, correct location rules, and brief support teams so recovery is fast and controlled. Device and application cutovers often fail in practical ways. Users cannot sign in, profiles disappear, certificates break, or business workflows stop. Build rollback into the migration design. For devices, know how to reverse join state, management enrollment, compliance settings, network access, certificates, VPN, Wi-Fi, and local profile access. For applications, preserve fallback paths for authentication, registration, SSO, and claims changes. Coordinate timing with app owners, then prove success through pilots and critical workflow testing before making irreversible bulk changes. Before each migration wave, use monitoring as an early warning system, not just a reporting exercise. Track sign-in and audit logs, provisioning status, sync health, conditional access insights, and application access failures. Validate with pilot groups that reflect real business diversity: remote workers, privileged admins, legacy app users, and mobile users. Success should be measurable, including sign-in rate, MFA completion, device compliance, app access, ticket volume, and user satisfaction. The go or no-go decision should come from those thresholds, not optimism or pressure. That is how small issues stay small. Operational readiness turns support from reactive guessing into a repeatable process. Start by giving Tier 1 clear scripts for MFA setup, password resets, device compliance, and access denials. Those scripts should capture symptoms, checks, and required evidence. When an issue exceeds frontline scope, route it through defined escalation paths to endpoint support, identity engineering, security operations, application owners, or Microsoft. For high-impact events, use playbooks for lockouts, sign-in outages, sync failures, and conditional access mistakes. Before migration waves, rehearse these scenarios so teams know who acts, when, and how to communicate. The big takeaway is that migration architecture becomes production-ready only when controls are explicit. Governance defines ownership, approvals, documentation, and communication. Rollback planning makes changes safer across sync, access, devices, and apps. Operational readiness proves the plan through monitoring, pilots, emergency access, support, and escalation. Next, we move from planning into hands-on hybrid identity implementation.